When it comes to graphics cards, the GTX 1070 has been an all-star since its release last year. It provides a fantastic balance of price and performance, with specs and horsepower to rival the previous generation's Titan X. Although it's rare nowadays to find a 1070 at the MSRP of $400, it still might be the best overall package out there for most people. Now, there's no shortage of different 1070s on the market. You can get reference ones, big ones, small ones, hybrid ones, black ones, red ones, white ones, and even custom water-cooled ones. But this one is pretty unique. Why? It's the fastest one I've ever tested. This is the colorful iGame 1070 X-Top. Now, the name might not be as familiar to you as something like Gigabyte or MSI, but Colorful is a large manufacturer of GPUs, motherboards, and SSDs, focusing mainly on the Chinese market. That's not to say that their products aren't available here. In fact, this card came to me courtesy of GearBest, which is kind of like Amazon, but is based in and distributes products from China, all over the world. Even though I'm not sure how many people care about this kind of thing, I just want to mention that the packaging here is top notch, and this is the only GPU I've ever unboxed that was cushioned by velvet. The iGame 1070 is based on the GP104 chip, but Colorful has engineered their own custom PCB and 8+2 phase digital power delivery system. As this is a factory overclocked card, it does require more power than a Founders Edition, so you'll need two PCIe 8-pin connectors to run it. The custom PCB is also fairly long, measuring slightly more than 11 inches, although it's not all that wide at just about 2 slots. The shroud itself is made of aluminum and feels solid as a rock. Cooling on this card is done in kind of an interesting way. While many companies now are implementing some sort of zero fan technology, the iGame 1070's 3 fans don't move at all until the GPU surpasses 62 degrees Celsius when run with the stock fan curve. 62C is as hot as some cards get with the fans spinning, and although at idle this makes for a completely silent operation, as soon as you load up a game, those temps get real hot real quick. The fans and the quad heat pipe cooler design are extremely effective at keeping the GPU hovering around that 62 degree mark once they get going, even when the card is manually overclocked. I just kind of find it to be a strange decision to let the GPU get that hot in the first place before trying to cool it. When I dialed in a manual fan curve, even a moderate one, temps didn't exceed 57 Celsius during stress testing. I really think that this cooler is one of the better ones that I've seen. Not only do you get the 4 heat pipes coming out the back, but there is actually another one that curves around internally. There's a large copper cold plate at the base of this giant fin stack, and the ability to dissipate heat is clearly here. I'm just not sure why the fans are set to not move at all until we get to that temperature. The fans themselves consist of 2 90mm outer fans and 1 80mm inner fan, surrounded by the Eye of Sauron. This LED is actually RGB configurable, although the surrounding ring is a metallic red. There are 2 other zones on the card with lights, the side of the shroud and the rear at the end of the card, both of which sport iGame logos. The back plate is aluminum and stylized with another red iGame logo. I definitely understand manufacturers wanting to brand their products, but sometimes it goes just a bit too far. Between the stickers on the fans and the logos on the card, there are 6 reminders on the 1070 X-Top that this is an iGame graphics card. That's a few too many for my tastes. But let's get to the meat and potatoes here. How does it perform in games? There are 3 ways that you could run the iGame 1070. Stock, manually overclocked, or in turbo mode, enabled by one click of this physical button located next to the video outs. I was immediately intrigued by this button and wondered what kind of performance benefits it might be able to yield while saving the time usually spent fiddling with settings in Afterburner. Unfortunately, the results just weren't there, as although the card did boost higher up to 1924 MHz in turbo mode versus 1898 stock, the clocks just weren't nearly as consistent, bouncing around despite the fact that thermals didn't really seem to be a limiting factor. Also, I don't necessarily like the fact that I don't have control over the voltages if I'm just using a one-click overclocking solution. I want to be able to control what kind of power is going to the GPU. What I was able to do with this card though was crank up a 200 MHz core overclock and 300 MHz offset on the memory when I did things manually. As you'll see from these slides, this yielded some pretty impressive benchmarks. So ultimately, the iGame 1070 has a bunch of checks in the pros column and also a few in the cons column. I think the best thing you could say about this card is that with a manual overclock applied, it's incredibly fast. And that's usually at the top of everybody's wish list. It's also very solidly constructed with a really good cooler. I also happen to think it looks pretty snazzy. However, at $499 US, it's not cheap, and it comes plastered with logos. Also, the zero fan mode is a little too aggressive for my tastes, and the turbo button looks like not much more than a gimmick. Overall though, I value the ability to overclock a card and its resulting performance, so the iGame 1070 X-Top gets my seal of approval. So that's it for my review of the colorful iGame 1070 X-Top. What do you guys think? Let me know down below in the comments. Also, don't forget to check out my merchandise store. You can find a link to my website down below, and also get subscribed to the channel if you're not already. I want to say thank you to GearBest for sending this card over for review, and thank you to you guys for watching. As always, see you next time.